But I do want to introduce Rafe Esquith. Rafe is a fifth grade teacher from Hobart Boulevard Elementary School. And you can follow along in your program if you'd like. I'm still going to read it, but if you want to follow along, that's fine. Rafe is a once-in-a-lifetime educator. He may be the most inspiring school teacher in America. He has been called a modern-day Thoreau by Newsday, a genius and a saint by the New York Times, and the most interesting and influential classroom teacher in the country by the Washington Post. That's a pretty tall order there. For the past 2 decades, Rafe has taught fifth graders at a public school in Los Angeles, neighborhood plagued by guns, gangs, and violence. Sound like your user community sometimes? His exceptional classroom at Hobart Elementary, known simply as Room 56, is unlike any other in the country. Rafe's students are mostly immigrants or children of immigrants living in poverty and learning English as a second language. Yet under his tutelage, they voluntarily come to school at 6:30 in the morning and often stay till 5 in the afternoon. They learn math, reading, and science, but they also play Vivaldi, perform Shakespeare, often score in the top 1% on standardized tests, and go on to attend the best universities. For his near heroic work, Rafe is the only teacher to be awarded the President's National Medal of the Arts. He has received the National Teacher of the Year Award and won accolades from Oprah, the Queen, and the Dalai Lama. He has written 3 books: Teach Like Your Hair's on Fire, Real Talk for Real Teachers will be published in 2012, and No Shortcuts in Lighting Their Fires. There are no shortcuts in lighting the fires. Rafe has also been featured along with his students in the PBS documentary, The Hobart Shakespeareans. I had the privilege of seeing that documentary, by the way, and if you get a chance, you should watch it. So without further ado, Rafe Esquith.
Are we on? Yes. Well, it's always embarrassing when I was hoping Bill wouldn't do this. They mention all the awards. Yes, it's nice being the National Teacher of the Year. It's nice being on Oprah's show. It's nice being given the Compassion in Action Award from the Dalai Lama. But the only thing of which I'm proud of is after 30 years, I'm still a classroom teacher. That's what I do for a living. I taught school yesterday in Los Angeles. I came here last night. I will be in my classroom tonight in Los Angeles. My students are waiting for me to rehearse. So a lot of times when people talk about education, they used to be a teacher or they have theories about children and teaching. I actually do this. And I wanted to share with you, Bill was talking about perspective, a little bit about what I do, and hopefully you can apply it a little bit to what you do. And before we do, I always start with 2 dangerous things I always tell an audience. First of all, the person who speaks to a group like you usually tells you how wonderful they are and how amazing they are, and I'm not that guy. And I'll prove it to you. Several years ago, I was teaching math in my classroom, and in Hobart School, we have 1,000 visitors a year to my classroom. And from all over the world, 43 countries last year. And a guy walked into my room several years ago, a nice young man wearing a 3-piece suit, and I thought he looked like a math teacher, and I said, "Can I help you?" And he said, "No, Rafe, I'm not one of your teacher admirers. I'm a private investigator, and I've been following you for the last month of your life," which scared the hell out of me. And I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I work for Oprah Winfrey, and Oprah Winfrey is considering you for what she calls an Angel Award, where she thinks you're doing good stuff and she's going to donate $100,000 to your classroom." But people lie to Oprah. They scam her, they tell stories on her show so they can sell books or their products. So she now hires people to check you out. And he told me, I have never talked to anybody I've tailed. I follow them, I file a report, we're done. But I wanted to talk to you. He said, it's kind of a good news, bad news thing. The good news, he said, you have the most amazing class ever. No one could ever understand your class. No book, no movie. No one will ever understand what you do with those kids. I wanted to let you know the good news, you're about to win Oprah Winfrey's Use Your Life Award. But the bad news, he said, and I wanted to tell you face to face, man, you are the most boring man I have ever tailed in my life. He said, you don't do anything. He said, you go to a classroom for 10 hours a day, You go home to your wife and kids. You guys never go out. I've staked out your house. You don't have any parking tickets. You never fight with anybody. You're boring, man. You got to get a life. So I wanted to apologize to advance for Bill and the good people who brought me here today that you're going to spend a little bit of your afternoon with the most boring man you'll ever hear. Also, in terms of what Bill said about perspective, the second dangerous thing I want to tell you, I am a really straight shooter. I tell it as I see it, and with a group like this, I am certain that I will offend some of you this afternoon. If I do, please, I don't mean to, and remember that Socrates was the best teacher who ever lived, and they killed him, right? So if I push a few of your buttons, I'm probably doing my job as a teacher. So let me give you a little clue as to what Hobart Elementary School is and where I work. 92% of the kids are below the poverty level. Nobody speaks English as a first language. In my classroom, you are not allowed to drink the water because all the water supply at the school has been deemed unsafe by our school district. 2 days ago, the room next to me, the ceiling caved in from rain. It's not an easy place to work. And the statistic that just kills me is only 32% of the children at Hobart, 32% finish high school. Only 32%. High school? Now that either means that we've got the dumbest kids on the planet or our system is failing, and everybody in this room knows the answer to that question. And all of you who have worked in schools, who are mothers and fathers and uncles and aunts, you know that our kids aren't stupid. Our system has failed them. And I got to Hobart over 25 years ago and tried to figure out a way that I could break that cycle. I don't have all the answers. Successful teachers often stand in front of a group like you and they say, all the children learn, all the children are successful. They make the Hollywood movie and they all win the big game and they all love the teacher. Those are all lies. I fail all the time. I can't tell you how many sleepless nights I have with kids that I desperately tried to reach and failed. But I do have a pretty good batting average. And I wanted to share some of the reasons why the Hobart Shakespeareans, as they're known, do so well in school. The key to our class is that I get the kids, rather than simply to study for a test at the end of the year, which is meaningless, I try to teach them a set of values and skills that they internalize and use not for the test at the end of the year, but for the rest of their lives. Because the real test isn't where the kids are after me. The real test is where are these kids 20 years from now? And what have I given them that they will use forever? What relevance can I bring to their hearts and souls? And one thing that I use in my own life that you might want to think about using in yours is most people who've been in schools know that children behave very badly. My children behave very well. So much so that when we travel, I can take 50 children on the road with no chaperones for weeks at a time with just my wife and myself, and no one misbehaves. Most classrooms are controlled by fear. Instead, I teach my children something called 6 levels. Level 1 thinking, I challenge them, is this. Why do you think most kids do their homework or listen in school? Because they're afraid that if they don't, they're going to get in trouble. Yeah, but that's not why we're doing our math or writing an essay. We shouldn't be doing that to avoid trouble. We're doing our math because it's good for us that we're going to be using this math, not because they're going to get in trouble with me. Then there's the second level of thinking in children's minds. We do things for a reward. We get an A, a gold star. Oftentimes you'll see kids, told by their teacher, hey kids, if you behave yourself, we'll have a pizza party on Friday. But again, that's not why you should be working in school, not for a pizza party. And if you don't think kids buy into this, just a few years ago, my principal, the kids all get free breakfast and lunch at the school, and the lunch area is a disaster. So my principal told the school, kids, we're going to monitor your tables, and if you keep your tables clean, on Friday we'll give you a popsicle. And all of my class looked at each other and said, level 2, there it is, level 2, right there. And on that Friday, when they were offered popsicles, my class turned them down. There's nothing wrong with having a popsicle with your kids. but not because you keep your table clean. You keep your table clean because it's hygienic. It has nothing to do with wanting a reward. Level 3 thinking. We do things to please people. Hey, Rafe, look at my art project. Do you like it? Is it good? What do you think of my art project? And I laugh at them. Why are you asking me? It's your art project. What do you think of your art project? All of us are in positions when we do our work to please others. But Bill actually alluded to this when he spoke today. You should be working to please yourself. It has nothing to do with others. It's what you think of your own work. And my students don't care at all what I think of their work. They are working for themselves. You know, if you've ever worked with kids, you'll often see this at a museum. The teacher will tell the kids, hey kids, don't run around. Don't make me look bad. And I laugh at the children and say, hey guys, if you were running around, I don't look bad, you look bad. I look fine. So we really put the onus on the children and how they conduct themselves. Level 4 thinking, we do things because it's the rule. We put 10,000 rules on the wall, and we don't talk in class because rule number 85 says don't talk in class. But again, that's not the reason you should be quiet in certain situations. We're not quiet in a hospital because of a rule on the wall. We're quiet because we know that people are sick and doctors are working. This is the thinking that I teach my children. Now, if you can get your kids to level 5, that's a fantastic place to be. Level 5 is that we do things because we're considerate of other people. We're quiet in a hotel room, not because we're going to get in trouble or it's a rule. We are aware that someone's in the next room and we might be disturbing them. You notice that right now at this conference, there are people outside talking. My students would never talk outside like that, never. They would be absolutely silent because they would be considerate of you, trying to listen to a speaker. If we were all level 5 thinkers, you'd never have to listen to anybody on their cell phone anymore. You could go to the movies without some fool ruining the movie talking through the movie for you. So my students are very considerate of others. But the highest level of thinking is level 6 thinking, which is I do things because I have a code of behavior that I follow. I'm a nice person because I am. I work hard because I do. It has nothing to do with the rule or anything of what other people think. Have any of you ever seen the film The Shawshank Redemption? Who's seen Shawshank? Great film. The best level 6 moment ever. Morgan Freeman at his final parole hearing, when they ask him, have you been rehabilitated? And he finally says, I don't even know what that word means. I feel bad for what I did, but not because I'm in here, and not because you think I should feel bad. I feel bad because I do. So why don't you leave me alone? And then they let him out of prison. That's what level 6 looks like. I usually bring students with me, but I couldn't today, so I brought them on film for you. I want to give you a look of what it looks like inside room 56. But the best thing about this clip, this won an Emmy Award from the Today Show. The class is fun, but they interview kids who are now adults. And watch what happens to these kids 10 years later. That is the real measurement of a successful teacher. Can we show that first clip from the Today Show, please?
Fifth graders in Los Angeles thrilled to be spending their summer in school because of a very special teacher. Our national correspondent, Jamie Gangel, has that story. Jamie, good morning.
Good morning, Matt. With almost 2,000 students, Hobart Elementary is one of the largest schools in the country, but also one of the most challenged. 92% live below the poverty line, and almost all of them speak English as a second language. But Hobart also has a secret weapon.
When the couple comes back, Polixenes chases them.
51-year-old Rafe Esquith teaches fifth grade like no one else.
Why is 49 a buzzword? There you go. Okay, very good. You got to think before you speak.
Dedicated and passionate, he starts class at 6 a.m.
1, a toast to the bride and groom, Jake announced, raising his glass of ginger ale.
Goes until 6 p.m.
15 points.
And there is no summer vacation.
Can you name one of the other 2 states that touch the Gulf of Mexico?
Why do you work so hard?
I saw kids who were 4 and 5 years behind grade level, simply because they didn't speak English as their first language, or their parents couldn't afford private tutoring. It wasn't that they didn't have good parents, but they had poor parents. And I guess we all like justice. We like justice. And this is supposed to be a land of equal opportunity. So I decided somebody has to level the playing field.
To accomplish that, Rafe, as everyone calls him, created his own curriculum. Lesson 1, there are no shortcuts.
Now let's go over one more time the strategy.
Lesson 2, behavior must be exemplary.
You're a good sport, okay? The mission of our class is be nice, work hard. If you want to be good at algebra, you have to work at it. If you want to understand literature, you have to work at it. And that's why there are no shortcuts.
Lesson 3,
To be or not to be.
Shakespeare and rock and roll.
Real nowhere man, sitting in his nowhere land.
Each year, the students master a play and put it to music. Henry IV gets the Beatles. Why Shakespeare?
I like Shakespeare. My father read him to me when I was a little boy. And I think the music is the glue that holds our class together. I really do. It's just great fun. And children that study music do better in everything. They're learning about discipline and practice and taking risks. And those lessons carry on whether they're studying algebra or literature or geography.
That's your name, I hear.
Well, have you heard but something hard of hearing? They call me Catherine, that do talk of me.
The Hobart Shakespeareans have become so accomplished, they have performed around the world. Actor Sir Ian McKellen is a fan and benefactor.
You can't watch those little actors who know the words so well and their meaning so well without wanting to cry. Why do you cry? I think it's happiness, really, and a regret that not every child in the world could have a Rafe Esquith.
Now the president...
Offstage, the students are also models of success. Test results have soared, and it shows on a class trip to Washington, D.C.
They look at one thing, the law. And what is our law called? The Constitution. They look at the law.
What's it been like being in Rafe's class this year?
It's been really fun because we do hard work, but then we have fun, so like time flies in the class.
It's been worth it because Rafe, he gives us a lot of advice on life.
He's always with us every step of the way, and when it's really hard for us, he always makes jokes, so it's not really that hard.
Are his jokes really good?
For most teachers, that would be more than enough, but Rafe Esquith is driven. On Saturdays, he tutors former students for the SATs.
Once you've gone through all the problems that you can do easily, go back and look at the pluses.
Then runs next
All right, boys and
door to
girls.
help others with math.
Boys and girls, algebra. Take a look at the library. Walk up those steps.
And every year, he finds a week to take a group on college tours.
Very difficult to get in here.
Oh, and yes, he does have a personal life. His wife, Barbara, is his co-conspirator.
The two of you have given up your lives.
No, we've enriched our lives. We haven't given up our lives. All these people think I'm so crazy. All these ideas were Barbara's idea. Barbara will say, you know, Rafe, I've got an idea, and that's when I start running for the hills, because her ideas are great, and I'm the guy who has to kill myself making them happen. There is a
And
connection.
what few people know is that
Sit
for
down here, let's
years,
talk
Rafe
about
has
that for a minute.
paid for all these special ideas, trips, and programs out of his own pocket, sometimes working 3 extra jobs.
You've been teaching for how many years now?
This is my 24th year.
24 years. You have been named Teacher of the Year. You've gotten awards from presidents. You've been given an award by the Queen.
Yep, I'm a member of the British Empire.
May I ask how much money you make?
Yeah, I made $42,000 last year.
You could make more money. You could go to a different school.
Sure.
You could be a principal.
Sure.
By now. Why not?
You were in the room today. I have the greatest job in the world. There is no way I would ever leave that place.
But even Rafe realized he could use some help. So a few years ago, one of his former students, Matt Parlow, started a foundation while he was at Yale Law School.
And I remember calling him up and telling him, I said, you know, you saved me, now I'm going to save you.
It is a sentiment echoed by many former students.
Well, I really almost see him as a father figure in my life. He's putting his life on the side to, make a difference in these kids' lives.
One word to describe him?
Hero.
Hero.
He is my hero.
Because?
For what he did for me, in helping me realize my potential and instilling in me a love of learning.
For someone who is changing children's lives every day, Rafe modestly dismisses such praise. It appears this teacher needs his students as much as they need him.
What's the biggest compliment someone could pay you?
There's nothing. I'm just a regular teacher. I'm an ordinary teacher. There's no compliment to pay me. The compliment should be for those kids who voluntarily work so hard.
What's your goal for these kids?
My goal for these kids is to get skills from me that they are using 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I want them to be happy, and I want them to be doing something they love to do. That's why I'm a lucky man. I do something I love to do.
You want to do that?
Rafe likes to joke that he's crazy. Matt, we could use a lot more crazy teachers just like him.
Hardest job in the world has to be being a 6th grade teacher in his school. How do you follow that act?
You can't, but he sticks with these kids. He through middle school, high school, right on.
Wonderful, wonderful story, Jamie. Thanks very much.
Sure.
We come back, a live performance of an
here's
inspirational
something to
song
consider.
after your local news.
One of the reasons my students work so hard. Thank you. Turn the sound off on that, please. Just pop out the DVD, please. Thank you. So one of the reasons that my students work so hard is that the education is relevant. And I want to give you an example of one of the things I teach them. On the first day of school, all of my children have to apply for a job. We have ball monitors and bankers and police officers, recycling monitors, all kinds of jobs. And if they do their job, they get a paycheck every month. They get a ledger to keep track of their money. Now, if they don't do their job, they don't get paid. I don't tell them to do their job. Nobody has to tell me to do my job. My principal does not have to remind me to teach every day. I shouldn't have to remind them to do their job. The problem is, the reason they need to earn money is that everybody has to pay rent to sit at their seat. Everybody has to pay rent, and the closer you sit to the front of the room, the more money you have to pay, because it's a better neighborhood. You see? Now, I'm so devious that the kids look at the charts and they go, now wait a minute, Rafe, I'm making $800 a month being a recycling monitor, but it costs $1,000 to sit in my seat. I'm not going to be able to make my rent. And I tell them that's right. And if you can't make your rent at the end of the month, you're going to be evicted from your seat and you'll have to sit on the floor as a homeless person. It never happens, because the kids have dozens of opportunities to make extra money. By doing extra activities and doing well in school, nobody winds up on the floor. At the end of the month, we have auctions where I sell school supplies and all kinds of cool things that the kids can buy if they have money left over. But the kids who are really smart don't buy anything. Because if you save your money, if you can save up triple your rent, you can buy your seat, call it a condominium, and never have to pay rent again, to teach them the principle of ownership. And the really clever kids buy other children's seats and charge them rent every month. Several years ago, I got a letter from a kid named Helen who went to Washington and Lee University in Virginia, and for her 3rd year of college, she was studying abroad, and she wrote me a letter and she said, Rafe, all the kids over here in Europe are wiring their mom and dad. Send money. Dad, send money. I'm out of money. She said, Rafe, I don't have to wire my mom and dad. I have enough money. I know how to handle money. I learned it in the 5th grade. That's an assessment of teaching, not the test at the end of the year. And in these times, when everybody has money problems, to teach children at a young age economic responsibility and delaying gratification is the life-changing experience. So for those of you who have young children at home, please teach them about economics. It's a very important skill for the kids to learn. Another example of relevance. As most of you know, most kids these days do not read. They hate to read. Well, if you saw the books that they're reading in school, I don't blame them. The school systems give the kids the most boring, terrible reading series, and then give them ridiculous assignments of bubbling in circles that do not stimulate the children to think. In my class, we have a different type of reading program. I took all the books that have been banned and we read them because they're all the best books. So my 5th graders read John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men. They read Huck Finn. They read Malcolm X. They read The Catcher in the Rye. They read To Kill a Mockingbird. 5th graders. And they learn that these books are not about some test they're going to take. These books are about them and moral decisions they're going to have to make in their life. And I'll prove it to you right now. I have an extraordinary letter here written from a student named Rudy. And I want you, my words are not important, but Rudy's words are very important. If any student should not have been successful, Rudy was it. Rudy came from a family of 7. 4 of the 7 children were educably handicapped. 4 out of 7. Both his parents had substance abuse problems. One time in front of Hobart School, they actually had a knife fight. When Rudy was in the 3rd grade, his parents divorced, and each parent married someone who also had a substance abuse problem. By the time Rudy got to my class in the 5th grade, he was filthy and living in 3 different apartments a week. Some nights with his dad and his new wife, sometimes with his mom and her new husband, and sometimes with a neighbor who tried to give him some soup and a place to sleep. No way Rudy should have been successful. Today, Rudy is a graduate of NYU. And I want to show you a letter he wrote me about making reading relevant. I had heard from a lot of kids that when Rudy was at NYU, he was really having trouble paying bills. And for those of you who don't know, NYU is a great school, but they have really bad financial aid. And New York is a tough enough city to live in anyway. But to go to NYU and pay your bills, Rudy was working a bunch of jobs, but he was really having trouble making ends meet. I had about $300 left in my checking account, and I sent Rudy a couple $100. He sent me the check back. And I want you to hear what reading should mean to a child. Listen to what this kid wrote. Rafe, as far as the money goes, I cannot ask of you to give of yourself like that. As I said, I can do this on my own. I just need to work a little harder and cut down on my expenses. I would feel terrible knowing that energy that could be devoted to a kid started on the path you got me on would be wasted on me when I can manage just fine. I appreciate your willingness to help me. It reminds me, as if I could ever forget, that you're one of the greatest people I've ever had the honor to meet. But I'd much rather have the money you're offering me go to the class so that one day some other kid will be in a position like mine. And while I'm on that subject, I have to tell you, I tell our story to anyone who will listen. Rafe, I honestly believe that I would be dead right now if it wasn't for you. I was headed down a dark path where drug dealing didn't seem so bad and the acceptance of a gang was looking like the only way to be accepted. You saved me from that. And now I'm at a top university studying an art that I never would have tried had you not cast me in a play. You showed me a better life, a better way to live. When I tell people about the class and you, I found myself comparing what you did to me to Plato's allegory of the cave. I knew only pain and disappointment and thought that was the way of the world until I met you. I thank God I did. Well, first of all, I had to look up Plato's allegory of the cave because I didn't know what the hell Rudy was talking about. But the point is, here's a kid who's reading, not for a class assignment, and applying what he's reading to his life. This is what school is supposed to be, not simply bubbling in circles at the end of the year. Now, one thing I really want to suggest to all of you, because I was talking to Bill on the phone last week, and he told me about when you have your bad days and when people don't appreciate you and when the job seems awful. I want to ask all of you to take some chances, take some risks. I want to tell you about a great risk that I took once, wound up hitting a home run, never expected to, got lucky. But many years ago, I got a phone call from the Heritage Foundation. Has anybody ever heard of the Heritage Foundation? They're a think tank in Washington. And I was very surprised they called me because their politics are very different from my politics. Nothing wrong with their politics, but they're way to one side of the political spectrum and I'm way on the other. And they asked me, they said, Rafe, do your kids do history recitations? And I said, no, we don't really do that. We're known for doing Shakespeare. And they said, well, that's too bad, because if you guys did history recitations, we were going to bring your class to Washington to give a performance in front of the United States Supreme Court. And I said, oh, you said history recitations. Of course we do. We do them all the time. We had a bad connection. I didn't hear you. No problem. Then I hung up the phone and said, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? So the kids and I started researching history. Every part of the political spectrum, from the right of Ronald Reagan and Barry Goldwater to the left of Clarence Darrow and Malcolm X. And we put all of these speeches together with music. And we had a great show plan. But something happened that's going to blow you away. And this is why we take chances. I'm going to show you a kid named Wayne. Wayne is 10. His job in the show was to recite a letter from the Civil War called the Sullivan Ballou letter. Sullivan Ballou was a soldier who fought at the First Battle of Bull Run. And before the battle for the Union, he wrote a gorgeous love letter to his wife and what she meant to him and what the country meant to him. He was killed in the battle and she never got the letter. We had rehearsed the scene that you're going to see many times. But here, in front of the Supreme Court, now talk about pressure. You're 10 years old. You're looking at 9 judges. You can't tell in this clip, but there are 1,000 people in the room watching you. Watch this kid carefully. As he recites the letter that he had recited many times in my classroom, something happens to him. Suddenly the words become real. What it means to be an American becomes real. What sacrifice and love and country mean becomes real to this child. You will actually see his breathing change. He's no longer acting, and watch those eyes. He is becoming a soldier facing battle in the Civil War. If we can run this clip of Wayne, if you have a napkin near you, you're going to need it.
Lest I should not be able to write again, I feel impelled to write a few lines that may fall under your eye when I am no more. I have no misgivings about or lack of confidence in the cause in which I am engaged, and my courage does not halt or falter. I know how the American civilization now leans upon the triumph of the government, and how great a debt we owe to those who went before us through the blood and suffering of the Revolution. And I am willing, perfectly willing, to lay down all my joys in this life to help maintain that government, to pay that debt. My dear Sarah, my love for you is deathless. It seems to bind me with mighty cables that nothing but omnipotence can break. And yet, my love of country comes over me like a strong wind and bears me irresistibly with all those chains to the battlefield. And all the blissful moments I've enjoyed with you come crowding over me. And I feel deeply grateful to God and you that I've enjoyed them for so long, and how hard it is for me to give them up and burn to ashes the hopes of future years, when God willing, we could have still lived and loved together, and I've seen our boys grow up to honorable manhood around us. If I do not return, my dear Sarah, never forget how much I loved you. Nor that my last breath escapes me on the battlefield, it shall whisper your name. Sarah, forgive the many pains that I have caused you. How thoughtless, how foolish I have sometimes been. But oh, Sarah, if the dead can come back to this earth and flit unseen around those they love, I shall always be with you. The brightest day and the darkest night. Always, always. And when the soft breeze fans your cheek, shall be my breath, the cool air, your throbbing temple, shall be my spirit passing by. Sarah, do not mourn me dead. Think I'm gone, and wait for me. For we shall meet again.
Sullivan Ballou was killed a week later at the First Battle of Bull Run.
By the way, Wayne graduated from UCLA as a history major. So pretty cool. Now, when we try new things, however, let's be honest, you're going to make some mistakes. And I want to share with you one of the funniest mistakes I ever made trying something new and taking a risk. I used to get really sad on Monday mornings because I would go to school and I would ask the children, how did you spend your weekend? And the kids often said, we watched a video, we watched a movie. And I would say to the children, well, what did you watch? And they would say, oh, Friday the 13th, part 12, Freddy kills everybody, the slasher strikes again. And I would be horrified going, that's terrible. And I would rant in my youth like they're gonna listen to me, you know? Like the kids are gonna look up and go, thank you, Rafe. Thank you for pointing out the error in my cinematic viewing. From now on, I will consult the American Film Institute and only watch the finest of films. Well, that's not gonna happen. So out of desperation, I started a film club. And what I did was I started collecting every kind of film you could think of from every country, time period, genre, but all excellent films. And I allowed the kids to check them out on Fridays. Each film came with a set of written questions, so the kids would work on their writing skills, listening skills, and be exposed to great movies. But in my first year, I made a very funny mistake. My class was going to go to Philadelphia, and we were also going to spend some time in the Amish country. Anybody ever been to the Amish country outside of Philadelphia? So I let a 5th grade boy named Pablo take home Peter Weir's film, Witness, with Harrison Ford. Hey, it's a good film. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Witness, I see a man laughing here. For those of you who aren't familiar with Witness, Harrison Ford plays a tough Philadelphia cop, and he discovers that there's a terrible criminal element inside the police force, a drug ring, and they're committing murders. And he discovers it, so he has to hide out on an Amish farm where he falls in love with the beautiful Kelly McGillis. They know they shouldn't be together because he's a Philadelphia cop, she's an Amish woman. But on Monday morning, Pablo's mother came to my room, 6:30 in the morning. I have never had a parent so angry with me in her life. Smoke was coming out of her ears. My Spanish wasn't really good in those days, but she gave me one of the great cussings of all time. 15 minutes of screaming at me because her son had seen the bad stuff. The bad stuff. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what is she? Oh my God, the breasts, the breasts. Because there's a scene in Witness when Harrison Ford walks in on Kelly McGillis taking a sponge bath, and you see her breasts. And Mama was not happy with me that her son. Now, I just want to say in my defense, if you watch the film, earlier in the film, Danny Glover, who plays one of the bad guys, cuts a man's throat in the bathroom. That was okay with Mama. Cutting throats, okay. Breasts, not okay. But I had to learn that you've got to learn to work with the families. And some families will let their kids watch a film like that, and some only want them watching Bambi, and that's fine. The funniest thing about that morning, Pablo's mother would have screamed at me more. I swear to you this happened. She had to leave quickly because the priest was coming to their house at 7:30 in the morning because they believed that Pablo's 8-year-old sister was possessed and there was going to be an exorcism. And as the mother walked out of the room, I so wanted to say, exorcism? Have I got a film for you? But I didn't do that. But I wanted to. But the beautiful thing about making mistakes is you can learn from them. I got better at the film club. Years later, I had a boy named Frank. Frank was not an outstanding student. He was a good kid, but my God, did he love the film club. He was taking home 3 films a weekend and writing about them with an electric energy that I had never seen. He was 10. One day he came up to me, this kid is 10 years old, and he goes, Rafe, what do you think is Akira Kurosawa's best film? I think it's Yojimbo. And I said, well, what about Rashomon? He said, no, Yojimbo's better. He's 10. A few months later, Frank doesn't take a film home on the weekend. I said, what's the matter, Frank? Getting tired of all this? He said, no, I won't be able to watch films this weekend. I'm going to the Czechoslovakian Film Festival. I'm looking at this little kid. You're going to the Czechoslovakian Film Festival. Frank looks up at me and goes, have you ever seen a Czechoslovakian film? They make some very fine films. So me, the idiot teacher, I'm trying to encourage him, and I said, well, you know, Frank, you like this stuff so much, you should be a film critic one day. And he was so mad at me. And he said, critic? Critics don't do anything. I'm going to be a filmmaker. Frank graduated from NYU Film School, and now he's a filmmaker. Make mistakes, learn from your mistakes, get better at the concept, and you can have success. And one final reason that I've been successful, and I know you can relate to this, when you're a teacher, they have you doing so many jobs that the bosses want you to do. The system is so bureaucratic that you stop being you. All the things that I do well in my classroom are things that I created. It's not that I fight with anybody. I never fight with anybody, ever. But I have quietly created programs that work for me. I have 3 great loves in the world: baseball, rock and roll, and Shakespeare. None of them are in the California curriculum, but they are all essential parts of my classroom. And because I teach my class rock and roll, and we've got a hell of a band, and now that the Shakespeare they do is so good that when they perform, people cross oceans to watch, just to be in that room when the kids perform. I want you to think about, have you lost yourself? Because I see people all the time who stop being themselves. All of my success is because I've been true to myself. I'm excited because I'm going to show you a film clip now that no one has ever seen. I put it together just for this conference. This is about 7 minutes, and you don't have to be a Shakespeare fan. This has nothing to do with Shakespeare. Watch the children that you're going to see, because I have a point to make afterwards. You're going to see 10-year-olds so brave that they will take their clothes off down to their underwear and play scenes of jealous wives and husbands in front of one another and in front of an audience. You'll see kids who don't speak English, who speak English so fabulously well, your mouth will drop. And they're not memorizing lines, they own this language. Look at their concentration. look at their needle-sharp stillness and professionalism, and ask yourself, forget about the Shakespeare, where will these kids be in 10 years? So I have a point to make afterwards, but I'm really excited about this. It's a couple of highlights, and you're going to see some wild rock and roll mixed in with some very traditional Shakespeare. So can we run the clip of the Hobart Shakespeareans? This is fun.
What's his reason? I am a Jew! Have not the Jew eyes! Have not the Jew hands! Organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions! Fed with the same food. Hurt by the same weapons. Subject to the same diseases. Healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same summer and winter as a Christian is. If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge?
This is Ian McKellen, okay? He's a really nice guy, okay? And these are the newest Shakespeareans.
The best thing about the Hobart Shakespeareans is that they know what they're saying, you know?
We work very hard.
I know you work hard, and you understand every single word, and that couldn't be said of all actors who do Shakespeare. Really good.
Jeer and flaunt me into teeth? Thinkst thou I jest? Hold, take thou that, and that! Dromio! Dromio! Say, is your tardy master now at hand? It seems he has great care to please his wife. Why, mister, sure my master is hard mad! Hard mad, thou villain! I mean not Coco Man, but sure he is Stark Man. When I desired his come to dinner, he asked me for 1,000 marks in gold. 'Tis dinner time, quoth I, my gold, quoth he. The meat is burned, quoth I, my gold, quoth he. Will come, quoth I, my gold, quoth he. Where's the 1,000 marks I gave thee then? The pig, quoth I, is burned, my gold, quoth he. My mistress, quoth I, hang up thy mistress, I know not thy mistress, out upon thy mistress. Quoth who? Quoth my master. Oh, Helen! Goddess! Perfect! Divine! To what, my love? Should I compare thy 9? Crystal is muddy. Oh, how ripe in show. Thy lips, those kissing cherries, tempting grow. Oh, let me kiss this princess of pure white, the seal of bliss. Oh, hell! I see you're all bent. Just said I can see for your merriment. How little am I that I'm ready to tell you, Mahogany gentlemen. That'll not hurt me.
Sitting in the calm of the magic forest, waiting for the spirits to call. Red eyes, dream on strawberry wine. A good friend of mine follows the stars. Venus and Mars are alive tonight. Come away on a strange vacation. Holiday having begun. Run into one good friend of mine. Sorry your son before the stars. Venus and Mars are alive tonight.
Now am I dead? Now am I fled? My soul is in the sky. Tongue, lose thy light. Moon, take thy flight. Die! Ah! Now die! 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 Now die! Now die! Ah! Die! Wah! Now die! Now die! Now die! Wah! Now die! Oh! Now die! Now die! Now die! Oh! Now die! Die! Die!
This will always be a good memory for you, but it's one of many great memories to come. The readiness is all.
So here's what I'd like you to consider. Did you like the camera work that you just saw? Because I can't even take a picture. A friend of mine does all the camera work in my room. Did you like the sound quality of the band? I can't even push a button on a tape recorder. One of my fellow teachers is an engineer at night in a studio and does the recording for me. Did you like the keyboard solo? I can't write that. One of my former students, who's a Fulbright music scholar from Northwestern, writes all our keyboard parts out for the children. I collaborate with others. I love working with other people, and I love surrounding the children with people that are very good at what they do and who are professional at what they do. The people who work with my students follow the most important rule. We have to be the people we want the kids to be. I always tell young teachers, if you're screaming at the children to be nice, that's a mixed message, isn't it? There are days when I want to throw them out the window, but I don't. I always stay calm because I have to be the person I want them to be. When I come to a meeting like this, I never, ever, ever talk to a neighbor or don't pay attention to a speaker, because I expect the students to pay attention to me. And if you don't think the children are watching us and know who we are, you are sadly underestimating their powers of observation. We must be the people we want them to be. If we think that children today are rude, and they are, or inconsiderate of others, and they are, let's take a look at ourselves before we admonish them and who they are. We are the ones who set the example. They're watching us always. And in closing, can we have some honest people here who can raise their hand and say, there are days when I don't think I'm making a difference. There are days when I'm failing or things aren't going well. Can anybody admit to that? Because I feel like that all the time. May I respectfully disagree with you and say, you don't know that. Sometimes the work we do makes a difference 10 years from now, and we don't know it, and we never see it. And it's very frustrating to know that, because we want someone to give us the pat on the back, to give us the thumbs up. And I want to show you the perfect example of this. Remember the film from the Supreme Court? There was a little girl playing the violin. Her name was Janet. Janet and I did not have a close relationship. She barely spoke to me in the whole year we were together. At the end of the year, Janet did not give me a card of thanks. She didn't give me a hug, and we didn't join hands and sing Kumbaya together. Really. She was a wonderful girl, but barely said good morning. She was a kid who I was sure I didn't make a difference for. Sure of it. But about 10 years later, I got a letter from the University of Notre Dame. It's the most amazing thing ever said about my classroom. You know, when you go to college, you have to write an essay. Janet went to Notre Dame, and Janet wrote an essay. Notre Dame gets 17,000 applications a year. They contacted me and said, Rafe, you have to see this. This is the best essay we've ever been given, ever, in the history of Notre Dame. And I'd like to share it with you. For those of you who don't think you made a difference, you do make a difference, and Janet will prove it to you. I want to warn you, when this begins, the first couple of paragraphs, they're a little boring. But please stay with Janet, because she's going to take you somewhere pretty amazing. Here's what Janet was asked to write about. They asked her to write about her childhood and something that was important to her. And she wrote about a night when she was in a play. And here's what she wrote. My heart begins to beat, and the lights start to dim, and the chattering of students slowly dies down from scattered mumblings to silence. The tiny room is flooded with lights, and I look out into the audience. An 11-year-old boy walks out onto the stage, or classroom, I should say, to the opening lines of his character, Benedict. My heart starts to beat again quite rapidly as my turn approaches. The crowd laughs, and I step onto the stage. It's 6 p.m. It's June 15th, 1998, and I've just started my final performance of Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. I was first introduced to Shakespeare when I was 9 years old by a teacher, Rafe Esquith, who was famously known at my elementary school for directing a Shakespeare play every year. Not wanting to turn down an opportunity to be in one of his famous plays, I immediately said yes when he asked me. Now, I put famous in quotes because at my elementary school, being asked to participate in a Shakespeare play was as if I had been asked to join a cool and exclusive group at the school. The following year, I was in The Winter's Tale. All these plays were performed in our tiny little classroom, room 56, and on that night of the final performance, I could only think to wish how I could stop time. I wish I could put all the feelings that evening into a jar and carry it around with me wherever I go, because the emotions in room 56 that night were full of delight and passion and energy. Putting together those plays every year not only taught me about Shakespeare, but I learned about teamwork and humility, and that when one of my classmates was on stage, it was his turn to be in the spotlight, not mine. Who would have thought one could learn so much just by being in a play? I learned my most valuable lessons during those years in room 56, and I treasure all the experiences I had in that tiny little classroom. Hobart Elementary School is located in the heart of downtown, and as I look back on my elementary years, I think about the horrible environment I grew up in. There were kids who didn't know how to speak English, even teachers who didn't know how to speak English. There was a rape or abuse case every week at school, and policemen were seen frequently on campus. Yet, during the 5th grade, when I walked into room 56, everything changed. The world outside stopped existing and disappeared. Instead of gang fights and beggars, my life turned into guitar lessons and history productions and Shakespearean characters. My fears and horrors were replaced by happiness and laughter. It became my second home, and my classmates, my second family. I did most of my growing up in Room 56, and it shaped and molded me into the person I've become today. No matter what else was happening anywhere in the world, all my troubles could be fixed in this safe haven. And I constantly retreated to it when I had family trouble. And even today, if I am looking for a place where there is only love and joy, where anger and hatred do not exist, I still retreat to Room 56. I think that's the challenge to all of us who work. We must create safe havens where our children can flourish and become the extraordinary people we know they can be. And I'm so grateful to all of you for making Asheville a safe haven for me today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Rafe. We'd like you to take just a couple of minutes to answer questions, if you would.
Of course.
Have a microphone. I'm going to ask the first question.
Go ahead.
I have the privilege. You mentioned a little earlier one of your recommendations was rediscovering yourself. Some of us are older than others. Some of us are younger than others. For us old folks, how do you go about rediscovering yourself? What advice would you give to us?
Well, the one thing I always do to rediscover myself, teaching can be such an isolating job. You know, you're caught in your little room and you only see your kids. I spend a lot of time with other people. I want to hear what they're doing in their lives, what works for them. Even after 30 years and probably being the most honored teacher in the world, I love watching teachers all the time. Love watching good teachers. I do new things every year, and sometimes, Bill, they fail. But sometimes, by watching others, I get my best ideas. Many of my best ideas come from watching others. I like people and I like hanging out with people, especially professional people. And let's be really honest here, I'm a straight shooter. Not all teachers are professional. And you hear about those teachers. But there are also fantastic teachers you never hear about. And that makes me very sad because I work with a lot of them.
Thank you. Any other questions?
All right.
Hi.
How would you, I'm thinking you'll say probably the same, but how would you suggest applying the 6 levels of thinking that you just displayed to adults in the work environment?
Absolutely. I applied the 6 levels. By the way, I wish I was smart enough to have thought of those 6 levels myself. Let's give credit to where they're due. They come from a social scientist named Lawrence Kohlberg. I'll give you an example. At an elementary school teacher, there are so many rules. I mean, you can't imagine the bureaucracy. And one of the rules at our school, they have canceled PE. They canceled it because the kids must be caught up in math and reading. But that's ridiculous. Kids need to play sports. It's healthy for them. But we have a rule, no sports. We also have a rule at our school, level 4, everybody must read the reader that the school gives the children. But it's awful. So what I did early in my career is I switched to books and I broke the rules. But here's how I beat the system. You would think, what, did they come down on you? Yes, they did come down on me. But how do you beat the system? My students scored 50 points higher than the rest of the school. I beat them at their own game. So I'm not a level 4 thinker. I'm not against the rules, but many of my favorite people broke the rules. And I beat the system by beating them at their own game. If I could give an example, do it with some humor. First year of school, my students never get to go anywhere. And I asked them, in Los Angeles, there's a place called the Hollywood Bowl. Beautiful place to see a concert. It's on a hillside, great place to watch a concert. And on a Saturday night, I planned to take my students to the Hollywood Bowl to see a concert. 3 administrators heard about it, show up in my room. Rafe, we hear you're taking the kids to the concert. I thought they were going to thank me. You can't go. Of course we can go. Got the parents ready, got cars ready, got the tickets, we're going. You can't go because you work for the Los Angeles Unified School District. Yeah, but come on, it's Saturday night. You know, it's my time. You're still a representative. You cannot take children on trips. And I said, you know what? Thank you for letting me know that. I appreciate it. Thank you for correcting me and setting me straight on the errors of my ways. And they left. But an amazing coincidence happened. Just by coincidence, one of the students in my class, that Saturday night was her birthday. And since the trip was canceled, she decided to have a birthday party at the Hollywood Bowl. And do you know, she was such a nice kid, she invited everybody in the class, and she liked me so much, she invited me too. So I didn't take the kids on a trip, I went to a child's birthday party. That's how I break the rules. But I don't fight with people, and you should know this. There's a very famous businessman, I'm not allowed to mention his name, but he's famous, and he once spent a week with me for 60 hours, 12 hours a day, 5 days. He went to every meeting, saw every rule, saw every parent encounter, and we have some crazy parents, just really crazy ones. And he told me at the end of the week, he said, Rafe, I gotta tell you, ma'am, I learned something about you. I know what your greatest accomplishment is. It's not that you're the world's best teacher. And he said, you might be, but your greatest accomplishment is in 25 years, you haven't killed somebody yet. He said, how do you walk around this nut house with a pleasant personality being nice to everybody? And it's what Bill was saying before. It doesn't matter what other people are thinking. I can control my behavior. My students are watching me. I want them to be nice people. If someone's mean to me, I'm always pleasant back. Because if someone's mean to me, it's a statement about them. It's not a statement about me. I'm a nice guy. Bill talked to me on the phone. I'm a nice fellow. I try to be nice to everybody. So that's how I break the rules and apply it to my life. And especially that fifth level of being considerate of others. You have to know I'm an incredibly busy guy. Every teacher who calls me, especially the young ones, gets a call back that day. That day. They're amazed that I answer the phone. My phone rings. Hello, may I help you? Yes, I'd like to speak to Rafe. This is Rafe. No, I want to speak to Rafe. No, this is Rafe. They think I have some staff or something. So I always apply the fifth level of being considerate to others. I think you would agree, sir, many people aren't. We're a very inconsiderate society. So that's something that I really work on, those 6 levels, thinking of other people and standing in their shoes.
Okay. Other questions? Anybody else?
What made you decide to be a teacher?
Oh, the money. They keep telling me I'm going to get rich. I was raised by a father who told me that whatever you do, help your community. So if you're an architect, spend some time at the church and help them build the new center they're trying to build. I have a daughter who's a lawyer who does pro bono work every week. I have another daughter who's a doctor who does free clinic work every week. When I was about 13 years old, I wanted to make about $50 one summer because there was this girl I really liked and I wanted to take her out. So I got this job at a summer camp, and I swear to you, I don't know why this happens, but even at 13, there would be counselors on the bus screaming at the children, shut up, quiet down. And for some reason, when I'm in front of a group of kids and I just say, everybody listen up, they do. I don't know why, but it's just so much fun. And even though I get offers from directors and stuff to make the Hollywood movie and stuff, I'm just having too much fun doing what I do. I do think that if we don't get our education system fixed in this country, we're in trouble. So I'm trying to make a difference. That's why I decided to do it. And I enjoy it.
Other questions? Rafe, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everybody. Really appreciate it.
I will tell you that I did get a chance to visit with Rafe personally last week, and we talked a lot about the similarities between local government and school system and being a teacher, and of course we're all in it for the money as well, I'm sure, as most of you know. I will tell you that Rafe actually donates all of the proceeds that nclgisa gives him to his Shakespearean, Hobarth and Shakespearean group. And I think that's outstanding that he does that. All the profits from his speaking fees pay for books, science equipment, computers, musical instruments, sporting goods, historic and cultural field trips, and his annual Shakespearean productions. I'd kind of like to have had him for a teacher myself. I hope you enjoyed Rafe's presentation. I think he's an outstanding presenter and an outstanding speaker and just a fine human being, and really appreciate all the work he does.